what you have to have is that clear vision that you're gonna get what you want. It's like being certain that you will find it. Like, for
Yeah.
example, if I go to that Eduardo at 2017 and I tell him, hey bro, like chill out, it's gonna work out.
Yeah.
I know that I would have taken other decisions because I know that things will work out.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for I think this is the 14th episode now of the SimCast, and we've got a special guest with us today. He's a full-time day trader and has a family in Houston. His name is Eduardo. Eduardo from Edu Trades on Twitter. Glad to have you, man.
How's it going, John? Glad to be here, man. Thank you so much for having me.
That's awesome, man. So, I feel like you're already mi pana,
Dude, you had me when you were asking me to come to the podcast, and you're like, of course, mi pana, come here. I'm like, dude, this is this is it, because mi pana in slang Venezuelan is like, dude, like, something like that. Yeah. So I was like, hey, okay, he knows arepas, mi pana, he knows chamo, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty
great.
Las
arepas son mis favoritas, man.
Oh, you did? Have you tried them?
Arepas, yeah, sure, man. Cachapas. Really, all right, so we were talking offline, and I've got to admit, I was dating a Venezuelan lady for a little while, and she really introduced me to the cuisine, and I kind of got picked up a little bit on the lingo, la mi pana, mi chama.
Yeah. We're like really proud of our culture, so she must have like teach you how to dance and all those things, right?
she tried. But yeah, awesome. I actually like paid for some lessons to like try to like get up
to catch up.
just not happening, man. I'm just like a southern boy with like no moves. So
but are you still with her?
Oh no. She's moved on. We moved on. It's yeah.
4 lessons more, man. 4 lessons more.
But what's interesting that I learned about her is that the Venezuelan culture, I mean, you guys are very driven in business and have that entrepreneurial spirit, and she worked like, to not just like provide for herself, but, to like, she was trying to build a business, and she still had family in Venezuela. Yeah. And so she was supporting them. So, maybe, I don't know, how has that situation affected you? Because I feel like part of your story was kind of like coming out of Venezuela and getting, or like trading was like helping you get out of Venezuela for a little while, so what happened there?
Well, thanks to trading, I could do that. Like, the thing is, Venezuela is a really interesting country because of the politicians there and the government and the dictatorship, and I like to call it that way, that is happening there. We had to flee. Like, a lot of Venezuelans didn't have a choice. You said we're driven, but I'm just seeing that we didn't have a choice. If you are not driven, like, it was gonna be tough for you. So that's why I had to flee my country, because when my wife was pregnant there, we had to I even got kidnapped in my own house,
Wow.
That was like 5 years ago. So we took the decision to come because we were living great there, we were not, it was kind of hard to take the decision because we were living okay there. But there were so many things that were affecting like our safety. Like so that was like 4 years ago. Now things have changed a little bit. But back then it was really tough because when you're expecting a baby, like your priorities are not the same. You care a lot about safety. I even got calls from people from jail, like extortioning me. I got kidnapped in my home place. Like, I had a lot of shortages of power. So I was trading and it all went off, and it was really like on and on and on. I was like, you know what, let's leave. And we came here. And it was quite tough, as you said, as your friend was so driven about business, is because when we had to come here, we had to figure it out, because trading back in Venezuela, and this is something really like back when I was in Venezuela, I was making like maybe $1,000 a month in trading, something like that. And with that, you could live like really well back then.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but here, like $1,000, and I was like, you know what? How much do I need? Like $4 or $5,000 to live in the United States? Well, let's make 5 times the size, you know? And
Yeah.
that was the worst, like the worst decision ever. So I came here, like it went like really well for like 2 or 3 months, and then bang, I blew my account, obviously, with that
Yeah.
mindset on, 5 times the size.
Hmm.
I margin myself, I leverage myself a lot. So I blew my accounts and I had to like figure it out. And as I couldn't, like I'm an electrical engineer and I'm an MBA in finance, but I couldn't work here because I didn't have the legal,
Right.
permission to do so. So I had to do a lot of things, John, like, you name it. I was even a farmer in a ranch here in Texas.
Eduardo the farmer.
Dude, you have no idea the things that I had to do. Like I was sweeping floors. I was in Mexican restaurants. I was in demolitions and in construction,
Mm,
like all those things in order to trade, because I was trading
yeah.
while I was doing those things because I had to survive in some kind of way,
You got to do what you got to do, right?
totally. And I started like figuring it out that I had a skill because I really did know how to make money in the markets. And I started like teaching people how to trade in Spanish, but really locally. Like
Mhm.
people were like, hey, what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm into trading and all these things. And people were really interested, hey, how do you do that? And I started like giving lessons to really close people. I wasn't charging, but I was like more, they were really interested on it. And I saw it was an opportunity. So I
Cool.
started to do that while I was trading. And now I didn't have to like sweep floors, but I had like this, side job where
Okay,
I,
so you're making a little money off of education there.
yeah, totally. And
Cool.
things are starting to do well. And then, well, as I show in my track record, because that's something that I was so like the industry, the education industry in our business in trading is so like, especially in the Hispanic market, it's so shady.
Yeah.
Like everyone is trying to scam, everyone is trying to say, yeah, like I'm the best trader in the world, blah blah blah, and they don't show any results. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be like really full transparent on this, because back then I was like, making really little money, like maybe 2 grand a month or a grand a month or
Mm.
so. But I was like, I know how to do this. I just don't have enough to risk, because I was risking little money because I blew my account a
Right.
couple of times. And then things starting like going in my favor. And thank God right now we're residents of the United States. Like I'm about to close the year in $800,000 in profits. I'm on my way to that million. I have a community of over 1,000 people, Hispanic people, Latin traders. We all trade small caps. I don't charge that. That's for free. I I got this few people that I coach, like in a really personal level, because that I
Mhm.
think that's the best way to for people to get results.
Yeah.
And well, here we are, man. I don't know if
Yeah, here you are.
I talk too much in
No, that's cool,
Venezuela,
man.
bro. So.
That's cool. What I like to do is maybe touch on a few things in there. And maybe kind of go back a little bit. Um, because I would like to kind of, get an idea for like how you teach and your style of trading and stuff like that a little bit later. Let's go back though to Venezuela. This was when 2015, 2016.
That was 2016, 2017.
Okay, so you had already started trading when you were there, right?
Yeah, totally. I was even
No,
making a little money when I
you
was
were,
there.
yeah.
And that was like my wife and I were discussing what to do in the States if we flee the country. And I was
Yeah.
like, trading, like obviously, right? Like I'm
Right.
making like $1,000. Let's 5x the size and we'll making it.
Yeah.
It obviously wasn't that way. It was really tough, but it worked out. Like,
So, but back then, like, how were you learning? Like, did you, was this when you were with Sykes? Because I think I've read on your website where you kind of started with his challenge. And is that how you got introduced to trading?
well, first, I was doing the MBA finance
Okay.
at the university, and I thought that that was the way to approach trading back then. And once I realized that they only show you the academic way in order to manage portfolios, I was like,
Mhm.
this is not what I want. And there was a teacher that suggested me, it was like a course in trading and investment. And I did that. It was like a 4 month intensive, really intensive course. And we saw like all the assets that you have in order to trade. I even went through crypto there, and I was so freaking, I was like, this is not it. And bam, 2018, imagine that. But I went through a lot of um, assets that introduced me to trading. And what I realized is that I wanted to be a day trader. I always wanted to be that. And I saw that if you don't have volatility in your assets, if you're going to be a day trader, it's not going to work. So I was looking for the most volatile assets that you could find. And what I saw is that penny stocks were the ones that were the most volatile. And obviously back then, Tim was like the guy.
Yeah.
It was not like today. Nowadays, you have such a great information in any subject. Like if you go
Mhm.
through YouTube, you will find a lot of information in any subject you like. Back then, it was not like that. So I started to do the challenge with Tim,
Mhm.
and I started like realizing what was like that framework of the penny stock scheme and the pump and dump and the hype and the dump. And I started to understand, like really understanding what these guys do with those companies. So once I saw that opportunity, I was all in, and I was immersed in the small cap you know industry or so.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, I mean that sounds like you've got a nice little foundation there in Venezuela. How did your trading evolve? Did you kind of stick with that strategy that you learned there when you moved to the US? Or did you start kind of like studying some other guys?
Well, I was on PDT rule when I started, and
Okay.
back then it was like a course, like a curse, because it was so hard to trade over PDT under PDT, man. It was so hard. But I managed to learn a lot of, like, really pick your setup and really focus on what you are trying to find in a stock, that it really helped me. But once I got here, with a little help, I got over PDT, and I started to realizing that you have a lot of ways to trade. That's why I learned from J Trader. I learned from guys from MIC. I'm even right now on investment underground community. It's such
Awesome.
a great community, and I've learned of, like, anybody that I admire, like Mike, for example, Mike Spinoza. I see that everyone has like their style.
Right.
And I was trying to pick the best things that would fit my personality. So
Hmm.
that's why I try to like mix a lot of techniques,
Hmm.
and that's how I evolve in my trading. Like right now, obviously I trade so different than I was trading 4 years ago, so different. And right now I have a clear edge. I'm really consistent right now with my strategies. And right now I'm trying to evolve it so I can scale it a little bit more.
Cool. Cool. Let's go into that in just a little bit here. What I wanted to ask you though is like, give me step me back to where you had those blow ups when you first got here and you were trying to kind of like 5x. How did
Yeah,
you
totally.
handle that adversity, especially like having just moved to the US, knowing that your cost of living was higher and you got a baby and a family to take care of? What's going through your mind when that happened, and how did you rebound from that?
It's funny that you say that, because today my wife sent me like papers like this, like
Yeah.
this. And it was all written stuff like, hey, I'm tired of this. I must change. I need to, like, I'm tired of things didn't work out. This will work out. And I was really driven back then because I didn't have a choice. Like, if it didn't work, like, it had to work. So if it didn't work, I'll try. If it didn't work, I'll try again. And I think one of the things that really drove me was obviously providing to my family.
Mhm.
Like, it was not enough to, sweeping floors or do all those side jobs that you could ever find and not sleeping. And, it was really, really tough. And I was like, you know what? I know this will work. And it was a lot of time doing those things. And I think you had to have a really clear vision of who you think you are going to be. Like, what I was thinking is, imagine that John from 2025 will approach you and he will tell you, hey, John, don't worry about this, don't worry about that. Because what we don't have in this business is certainty, right? And certainty is one of the most valuable things that you could ever have if you are in that situation of migration,
Mhm.
because you don't even have money. I was broke as hell. I was not, like, you know I had education, and I thank that to my parents a lot, because it got me started in another level. But I didn't have enough money. But I think with the proper tools, in order to persevere and in order to fight for what you want and protect your dream, I didn't stop. I never stopped,
Mhm.
and I think that helped me. And even if things are not working out, you just got to keep going. And that's what I did.
And did you have family to fall back on there to maybe like help you or anything like that? Because I know, especially in like the Venezuelan community, that it's a very community centric
Totally.
culture.
Yeah. Well, I had my brother, and obviously he was a really point of support there. And I have my friends that I meet here, that I met here, and they were really supportive. And as they saw me that I was really good at what I did, they were like really supporting me, obviously with a little, profit from what I did. But it was like, you know what, I'm gonna support you because you know what you're doing.
Mm.
And they supported me a lot at the first stage of that, at that happening.
That's cool.
So it was quite, if I didn't have that, I think it would take me longer, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very important to, well, I guess it just depends. If you're driven, you're going to succeed, right? So, but it's always kind of an extra wind in your sails when you've got family behind you, friends behind you, who actually believe in what you're doing. So I think that's cool,
But if
man.
you don't, you will find them. You will
Yeah,
find the people that will support you. What you have to have is that clear vision that you're gonna get what you want. It's like being certain that you will find it. Like, for
yeah,
example, if I go to that Eduardo at 2017 and I tell him, hey, bro, like, chill out, it's gonna work out.
yeah.
I know that I would have taken other decisions because I know that things will work out. But you
Mhm.
have so much fear that things don't work out that you start doing stupid things, like leverage yourself, for
Right.
example, you know?
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
why I think it's really important that people that are starting trading are disattached from money. Like, I was so attached from money that it was such a trouble for me to, get into a setup because I wasn't willing to lose.
Mm.
And this is, like, obviously you got to be willing to lose because it's a part of the system, right? It's
Right.
like a businessman not having, like, costs in their operations. It's stupid not to have them. And once I got detached from money, it all changed. uh
How
it
did
changed
you,
so
do you
much.
remember that moment?
Yeah, it was when I got the residency, the US residency. I was like, you know what? This was the hardest part.
Wow.
Now money comes and goes,
So
and when I
yeah.
got to that framework, I was like detached, like so detached, John, that I have to put a $20 bill in front of my computers every time I trade, because I think that I'm trading points, not
Yeah.
money. So it helps me a lot to put feet on the ground. And if I'm risking like $1,000, I have to understand that they're $1,000. And when I got into that fuck it attitude, like I don't
Mhm.
care. This reminds me that I'm trading money. I'm not trading points, as I got so disattached from money.
Mhm.
So I think it's a great way to remind myself over and over again that time.
That's cool, man. Yeah, and I think it, like you said, it keeps your feet on the ground and just reminds you that that this is a business. Like even if though you're trading more money now, it's like points. You still want to stay grounded. But you did mention something there about vision. Like I'm wondering if because I actually did a kind of an email interview with a trading and sports performance psychologist recently, and she was talking about how it's important to set short-term and long-term goals. Did you ever do that, or was it just something that's just like, whatever comes my way, I'm just gonna like keep pushing on with whatever it is I'm doing? Are you goal oriented? Like, how was that vision for you?
So I see it like this. I have a vision that I know it's gonna work out, and I know that's gonna be my future, and that's done. But in my daily like process,
Hmm.
I focus on my process. I don't focus on my goals. So for example, I don't put myself a goal on a daily basis and a profit. Like, oh, I'm gonna make $3,000 today. No, it's like what I'm going to do today is trade the best setups that I find and try to follow my system and try to follow my discipline, like going into a gym, like eating well, like being disciplined in other areas of your life will get you disciplined in trading. So what I focus the most in my daily like routines is process. And when I focus the most on my future is my vision. And I see my vision as something that it's already happened, you know, like I already knew like the life that I'm living right now. I'm so grateful, but I was grateful even when I was struggling, because I knew that I was going to have this kind of life. It's weird, and I know it sounds really weird, but that's how I managed to keep alive that vision, knowing that it already happened. So I just gonna have to stay focused, and I just gonna have that certainty that it's going to happen.
That's awesome. Yeah, and those little building blocks each day of that process are what get you there, right? I mean, like, routine, doing your homework, doing your review like you're doing there, taking notes, writing things down so that you remember them. Um,
Totally, like,
and yeah.
what has helped me a lot, like being a coach to people has helped me a lot, because it keeps me like in martial arts, that you have to be like you have to do like the basic stuff over and over and over and over again in order to be master something,
Yeah.
in order to master something. So that's what I do on a daily basis. Like every freaking day I go through the basics, and that's why I keep myself so disciplined, and I don't get like carried away by my results, because my results are really good for what I was expecting. It's really, really great. And it's not easy to not get carried away, because when you say like, hey, I'm making like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 grand or 4 grand a day, you're like, but I can make 10, but I can make 15, right? And you get that carry away just because of that, that momentum.
Mhm.
And when I coach people, like that keeps me grounded, and it keeps me being like on the basics all the time, like doing the
Yeah.
basics all the time. That's really, really good.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, yeah. They, and like you were talking earlier, like you're in the IU room, and I hear Nate talk about that all the time. It's like you always want more. You're always gonna want more, and you gotta find a way to keep grounded. And it sounds like you found that through coaching, which is really, really interesting.
Totally.
Um, yeah, no, good stuff, man. Well, we're about halfway into the interview here. I was thinking like maybe we could take and maybe look at some of your process with the charts. Would
Oh,
that work?
sure.
Yeah.
For example, this is my Discord group, and I post every single process here, like every single trade, every single thing that I do, I put it here, the results. Like, I know that profits don't matter, but when you're Hispanic, when you're Latino, and we're surrounded by scarcity in our countries, and it's terrible.
Hmm.
And when you can see with your own eyes that somebody can make that, somebody like you, like eat arepas, like habla como un chamo y habla así, like
Yeah.
he dance the same way that you do, and that guy can make like 3 grand a day, you're like, man, I can do it too. It's like the Roger Bannister of these things. The Roger Bannister story,
No, tell me about that.
the guy that made 1 mile in 4 minutes.
Oh
It's
man.
like 1950s or so. I don't remember the date,
Right.
but nobody could cross the 4 minute mark in 1 mile, and this guy did it. Right after he did it, like 400 runners could do it too,
Right.
and before him it couldn't be done. you know so I think that these kind of things inspire people that, he's just like me. He's not, I don't know, he's not ducks. He's not that, they're like superhumans, right? He's not Nate. He's not
Right.
Tim. He's not, they're
Yeah.
like superhumans. Yeah, no, this is a guy like me, and he can make that. So that's why I put my profits like really transparent, because of that, and I, you can see, for example, I do, as I told you,
Mhm.
I got a lot of techniques from a lot of people, and I fit it into my personality. So what I do is I have a setup, I have a big picture idea, and I recycle shares.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's why you see a lot of execution in my charts. You can see that I have a lot of execution in my charts. So that's why I trade like this. See, I
Wow.
have an idea. For example, I have uh, the gap and crap. For example, that's the first day that a stock is gapping up, and you see something like an ATM, you see something like dilution, you see something like mm, bluff on the news or something like that, and you know that trade is going to go down. So I take that as my main idea, and I start like, I put a size, like for example, if I put like 1,000 shares
Mhm.
on the flushes, I cover 200, but on the bounces, I add the ones that I took, you know.
Right.
So in that way, I can make money from the noise, and you know that uh, stocks never go up or never go down; they like oscillate a bit. So
Yeah.
in that way, in the recycling, I can make money on the noise, and I can have my capital to work a little bit, like to optimize my capital in a way.
Mhm.
So that's why I do it that way, and that way I feel really comfortable doing it that way. So
That's
as you can
cool.
see, I have a lot of executions back there. Brokers love me, but as I
Yeah.
add liquidity, for example, you can see here that as I add liquidity, I get paid even for trading.
Okay,
Like
so
if
you're adding liquidity then.
Yeah, so even that I trade a lot, I get paid in order to trade. So it's like a freaking dream.
Well, how talk us through that because that's something that we haven't touched on in any of our simcasts before. Like, could you give us maybe like a quick tutorial on how you're adding liquidity? Are you doing it with hotkeys or because you do have a
Yeah,
lot of
maybe here.
okay, cool. Yeah.
I have the hotkeys, and all I do is you have to have the proper mindset in order to add liquidity, because you don't get to chase when you add liquidity. You have to,
Mhm.
when in the strength, you have to sell, and in the weakness, you have to buy. So
Right.
that's why you have to like start positions when they're like a little bit strong, and you have to take position off in the shorts when it's weak. So
Mhm.
that's why the first thing you have to do in order to add liquidity, it's not the hotkeys or anything like that. It's just the proper mindset to do so. You have to sell into strength and cover into weakness, or buy into weakness. That's the first thing. The first thing. That
Right.
way, you have to be really sure about the setup. So the setup, it's a short. You gotta, in every bounce, as you can see on the, this is a short all the way, right? And on every bounce, I add, and on every flush, I cover.
Right.
And the ones that I took here, I put it back on here. So that's why
So
it's called recycling shares, because
so
you're
let
recycling the same size, you know.
gotcha. If you can just keep it right there, what I'm interested in is just for example, those ads on the short side that you did into that bounce.
Mhm.
So you've got a hotkey set up. Now, is that then shorting on? Are you just shorting on the ask, or you've got a
Yeah,
hotkey with like maybe like a 10 cent, 10 cents above the
I put it
ask?
in the ask, so
Okay,
I got filled whenever somebody buys my order. You
gotcha.
know, that's how I get executed, and that's how you get paid for the rebates on each route. You got to be
Exactly.
really aware of the routes of your broker. For example, I use Guardian, and you for adding liquidity, always use Arca, because it's like the most popular route.
Right.
But when you're removing liquidity, you have to have a route that is not expensive. So if you use Arca in order to remove liquidity, you'll get hard, because it's expensive to remove liquidity with Arca. So you need a route that is not expensive.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the routes that are not expensive are not as effective.
Now, here's something that many guys would argue is that, what if you don't get filled?
You don't get filled, and that's it.
Okay, so are you putting multiple orders in there just in case?
No, thing is, as I'm not a sniper. So if I
Right.
don't get filled, I don't care.
Okay.
You know, that's
Gotcha.
it.
Yeah.
If for example, if I need to get filled, I just remove liquidity, and that's it.
Right.
Like, it's a matter of choice. Obviously, you will have the choice to add in liquidity or not add in liquidity. It's not a requirement,
Hmm.
because first things first. First is just your setup and your risk management. If you
Yeah.
respect that, okay, now we go to the adding or removing liquidity stuff.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, as I train myself to add liquidity, it's easy for me to add liquidity, because if you're adding liquidity to a short, it means that you're really patient of your entry. You're not like chasing. So
Yeah.
it's great for me to add liquidity just because of that. But there are times that I remove liquidity like crazy, because you have opportunities that you won't be able to get filled if you don't remove liquidity. So it's a game there. It's a trade-off,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. And it's all about knowing when you got to do that, right? So
Obviously, yeah, totally,
cool.
totally.
That's really neat, man. I love your style. And it seems like kind of an amalgamation, like a kind of a combination of a lot of guys that I've seen, like Bow, like I see some Bow Nugent in there,
Yeah,
like top ticking those
totally. Bao
yeah,
is one of the guys that introduced me to. He don't even know me. He doesn't even know me. But Bao was the guy that introduced recycling for me. Like, I
yeah.
didn't know what recycling was until I saw Bao. And Jay was one of the guys that taught me how to use setups.
Okay.
He's really methodical trader, so he taught me how to use setups. Team taught me how the framework works. You
Hmm.
know how the pump and dump scheme. Why does it work? Why does penny stocks or small caps that have lack of fundamentals, like a really crappy companies, get to be like 100, 200% on the day. He taught me that, and I think that basic, that's the core for everything else. Nate, for example, is teaching me how to scale. So as you can see, every single mentor out there has a great like feature to understand. Docs, for example, he's great at shorts. Like the statistics, I learned it from him. Roland Wolf, for example, he's sick on the lungs. Like I have gathered a lot of things on each one of them, and fit it into my personality, and that's it.
That's awesome, man. So I mean, yeah, do you have any long examples, or are you mostly short bias these days?
Well, these couple of days I'm really short biased because everything that gaps destroys.
I'm mostly long biased, and I've been sitting on my hands a lot here.
Yeah, totally. But you know what? Once you get that no bias mentality, this changes. Like this is a game changer for me, because when I get to know the short side, and I knew this like 3 or 4 years ago, I've been trading for about 7. So my first 3 or 4 years were, I was long biased, like totally long biased. I didn't even short back then. And as I was really good at long, I got really good at shorts because I already knew when a long wasn't going to work out.
Right.
So I was like, perfect. So I knew when a long wasn't going to work out. So I was really good at shorting. And when I became really good at shorting, I knew what shorts are screwed up. I know when shorts are definitely losing money. So that's how I can flip bias really quick. And as I don't use a lot of capital in order to trade, I can do those flip bias. If you're like invested, if you have a lot of size, you wouldn't be able to do that, because you will influence over the price, because these stocks doesn't have a lot of liquidity, especially the micro floats. But if you like trade like me, I don't put positions more than $30,000 or $20,000. That's like my biggest position would be a $30,000 position, and my average position would be an $8,000, $5,000 position.
Now, are you trading multiple positions like throughout the day? Because I see you had quite a few tickers there, or is it just like a couple here?
Yeah, for example, today I traded. Let me see.
Like how many tickers would you be trading at one time?
4 tickers I traded today. I traded VTDX, Huddy. I was greeting my friend Huddy that he, I don't know why I think of him every time I trade this thing. SBEV and TSRI. I traded 5 tickers.
So I was just thinking though, like, as many entries and exits as you have, like, to me, that would be kind of difficult to juggle more than one ticker at one time. Like, are you kind of like moving from one to the next, or is it all going on at the same time?
Well, if you can see my setup, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 charts with 7 level 2s and with 7 time and sales and with 2 book maps. So as I trust the setup a lot, and as I trust my system a lot, I know, like for my statistics, I've been knowing my statistics for 4 years now. So I know every stock I touch, 0.75% I'm going to earn, because I know that. Even though if I lose on the trade, if I apply this system through the whole year, I'll be having those results. And as I know that, I diversify my risk in all these setups. Like maybe one of them would not work, but the other will. So I trust a lot of this on the setup, and I recycle on the one that has more liquidity. I won't recycle in one that doesn't have liquidity. For example, today, Huddy didn't have enough liquidity, and I couldn't recycle enough. But for example, TSRI, even though it was a low float, it had a lot of liquidity. I can go in and out. Like,
let's see that chart. Can you show us that chart?
Look at that.
Wow.
Like here, as you can see where the volume is, you
Yeah.
can recycle a lot because there was a lot of liquidity. But once you got slower on the volume, it was really hard to to recycle. So I wasn't as invested on this.
Yeah.
And if you see Huddy, it was so different. See that? I don't recycle here a lot.
Right.
I'm just covering, I don't
Yeah.
recycle. But if you see TSRI, liquidity gives me that.
Cool.
So if you have a stock that has a lot of liquidity, that's the one that I will recycle shares. If
Got
I
it.
don't, I just put my position and let it work, and that's it. Obviously with little size, because I
Mhm.
wouldn't be able to, if it goes against me, I wouldn't be able to be as fast because I don't put stops or anything like that. I do that all manually. So
Interesting.
I have to be really aware, and that's why I think focus is the most important thing in trading. Like you have to be really focused, and you have to be, I don't know if you read that book, Trading in the Zone. Every time I trade, I'm in the zone because I'm like really immersed on my charts and my, reading the level 2 and all those things.
That's awesome. Oh yeah, no, Mark Douglas, that's a great book, man.
Yeah, it is. Oh my God. I've read it like maybe 5 times, and every time I read it, I get something else.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So let's maybe like fast forward a little bit here. Like just thinking about your goals for 2022, you've got it seems like you've got your system down, you're super consistent, you trust your process, you're making good money. So how are you like scaling up? Like how are you going to scale this strategy that you have? Are you going to have to maybe evolve it a little bit?
Yeah, I have to evolve it, obviously. I was talking to the short bear on Vegas, and he told me like, hey, there's no way that you can trade like risk reward and percentage of accuracy or percentage of winning trades. There's no way that you can have both high.
Right.
You have to have uh if you have like 80% in winning percentage, you
Mhm.
wouldn't have a 3-to-1 risk reward
Right.
ratio, right? So what I have to do now is to give up the pain to, not being right a
Mhm.
lot of times, and give it more room to work. So my risk reward will be higher and my winning rate will be lower, and that way I can scale up. I can size in on trades that are really great setups, like A+ setups. So what I'm working on right now is, scaling my trading. Obviously my main goal is to be a millionaire trader. Obviously that's the main goal here, because that's a pretty cool milestone that I like. The first time that I saw the millionaire challenge, the Tim's millionaire challenge, I was like, I'm in. And that's a really special milestone for me. So that's going to be the first one this year. And the other one is what I'm trying to do right now with Nate is to scale a little bit, give up a little bit of pain on those that I took a lot. Like I have the best entries ever, but I have the worst, exits ever, because
Yeah.
I'm really aware of the risk. So I don't want to be willing. I'm not willing to lose that much because I love my days really consistent. If you see my equity curve,
Mhm.
it's like straight up because I have little drawdowns because of like I'm really aware of the risk. Like I'm really, really rigid on my risk management.
Right.
So I think that's going to be my goal. Like my trading goals this year will be that. And obviously to help like the most people that I can, like Hispanic people. Like I'm really into that. I think that uh trading has to be uh more well known in Latin America, because we're all like forex and futures and that's it, and
Right.
now crypto. But you don't get to see this beauty like the small caps. I think it's the best market to start. Like the supply and demand are so clear here. Like you can see uh these market movements so
Yeah.
clear that you cannot see it in options, you cannot see it in trading futures contracts, you cannot see it in forex, obviously, because it's not centralized. So these kind of things really teach you how to manage supply and demand, and I think this is the best way to start. So I'm really into, getting to the Latin people to know this kind of, alternative to trading.
No, that's really cool, man. And I definitely think if anybody should be doing it, it's definitely you, because you've got a heart for the culture. Um,
An
I've been,
arepa, papá, an arepa.
yeah, right. I almost went to a little Salvadoran restaurant and ate some pupusas tonight, but
Yeah, but it's not the same, man. It's not the same.
I know it's not the same. It's not the same. So I do. We're almost out of time here, but I wanted to ask you, maybe one more quick question on how you're going to scale, because it's one thing to say like that's my goal, but like you're saying, like long-term goals are great, but it's like how do you get there, right? Unless you have some kind of process, then you're just kind of like shooting the moon. What are you thinking about doing? Because here at Tradingsim, obviously we believe in simulated trades and replay trades and watching the tape replay in order to learn. But it seems like scaling up, like you have a really firm grasp on technical analysis. You've worked with JTrader on your setups, and your entries are really cool. It's just like, how are you going to handle maybe like, or how are you going to train yourself to handle the emotion of scaling up so that it's not like when you first moved to Houston and you said, I'll just 5X it?
Yeah, what I'm doing right now, John, that's an excellent question, by the way. Um, what I'm doing right now is I'm doing little by little. I don't believe in going like, yeah, I'm a scalper and now I'm a swing trader. I think that this have to be like a transition. So what I'm doing right now is I have both uh, hotkeys,
Yeah.
and what I'm doing is, instead of like, I build my position, right? And when it flushes, for example, if I'm shorting, and when it flushes, instead of covering like 25% of my position, what
Mhm.
I do is buy 100 shares, because it gives me like, it withdraws the impatience of pressing the button to cover. So instead of pressing the button to 25% of my position, I just cover 100 shares, and that's maybe, maybe 2% of the position, or maybe 5% of the position, or maybe 10. But it's something that I'm working on right now, so I can be less stressed about the pushing button thing and be more aware of the setup. So I'm working on it right now as I'm doing it right now. But I think it's going to be, when the market comes. Obviously, there is no market to do this right now. But when the market comes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to tie my hands like this, and I'm going to try to let the setup work. Because
Yeah.
as I said, uh, I believe so much in the simulated trading. I believe so much in watching the things over and over again that I even record my screen all the time. Like
Right.
every time, for my guys for my team in the coaching team, uh, I put the whole live trading video there,
Mhm.
and there you can see the tape. Like I'm getting really, really good on tape reading, just because I see my trades over and over and over and over again, and that way I can have an edge,
Yeah.
because they do the same thing. They do the same thing over and over again. Those algorithms, they might not work the same on a week, but they will work the same a year ago, or in 5 months from now. So it's a cycle.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really, really great way to see if you have edge,
Yeah.
seeing what already happened.
That's cool. That's cool. And then, I'm really excited for you. I would love to be able to maybe touch base and maybe do another podcast at the end of
That
the
would be
year,
awesome.
see how that scaling is going. Because like you said, it takes practice. Like you see the setup, like you said, you can see a pattern, you can look at a million charts and say like, this is probably going to go from here to here, in a couple of hours. I've just got to have the guts to like stick with it. And
Totally.
yeah, so
Totally.
I look forward to hearing how that progress goes, man. It sounds like you've got a little process to get there. So
That'll be awesome, man. That'll be awesome. Of course, we'll see each other, and maybe I can bring some arepas to Atlanta.
oh man, that would be awesome. Yeah, no, that's
Of course,
fantastic.
and some reggaeton, bro.
Some reggaeton. Okay, I like my first well, I guess it was my second time in Latin America was Costa Rica, and
Oh, pura vida,
back
claro.
then it was all Don Omar,
Oh my
you
God, that's
know, some old school
a good
stuff.
times there. You
Yeah.
have now Bad Bunny. It is hard to catch up these
Yeah, I
days.
know it, right. See, I'm old school, man. If I listen to rap, I'm listening to like Bone Thugs, and
That's
or
awesome.
if I'm listening to reggaeton, it's like Don Omar, and everybody's like, dude.
This is a zillion years ago.
I know, right?
No, but I'm like you. I don't catch up as fast with the trends on reggaeton. I like my 10-year-old.
Yeah,
Back
right.
then when I was partying and all those things. And now I have two kids, and it no reggaeton for me.
That's too funny, man. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. This has been really instructive, and you've got such a good thing going there, man. And I'm with you. I think that the the Spanish culture or the Latin American culture it's in need of some strong leaders and educators. So I really hope you succeed there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Hey,
it.
hey,
And,
listen,
and it was
before we
sorry.
leave though, tell us tell our viewers how we can find you.
Oh, my Instagram is gonna be at edu_trades,
Okay.
and my Twitter is the same, edu_trades. And there you can find anything. Like, I have my website, and my coaching program is only I have to talk to you and know you,
Yeah.
just to be sure that you have the proper mindset to trade, because and everyone wants like the quick cash. And
Hmm.
if you go with that approach to trading, you're gonna get killed.
So
So
true.
that's why I want to like talk to people and understand why people wants to do this. And once I think they have the proper mindset, we'll go from there.
Bueno, bueno, mucho gusto, mi pana.
Mi brother, muchas gracias. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be talking to you. It was so fun, and well, appreciate you guys.
Cool. See you soon, man.
See you then. Appreciate it.
You
Have a
bet.
good one.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoy our content, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to like our videos. Also, check out tradingsim.com/blog for more content.